Snooper's gonna snoop.
This is our home.
Then let's fight for it.
We are an unusual couple.
It was really so fun getting to play all these different decades throughout WandaVision.
We just don't know what to expect.
And then, of course, everything kind of breaks down and becomes an MCU version of the real world.
Am I dead?
No. Why would you think that?
Because you are. Can't believe how it just keeps unraveling and unfolding in ways that I am still shocked and thrilled by.
Every day it's something different. You know, it's high-tech Marvel with helicopters flying around, and the next day it's a perfect recreation of a 50s sitcom. You know, and some days it's both.
I think something's wrong here. I think it's going to be really satisfying for people when they realize what is at the heart of this show.
This is our home.
Then let's fight for it.
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my WandaVision post-credit scene video and episode 8 teaser trailer. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. I'll be doing episodes for all the Marvel Disney Plus series this year. Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then Loki are next. There's going to be Marvel series pretty much every single month for the rest of the year, for the most part. We're doing a giveaway for Disney Plus memberships. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just post all your theories about the WandaVision finale on the video. Careful for spoilers for all the WandaVision episodes so far if you haven't seen any of them. But we'll start with the post-credit scene, then I'll talk about Evan Peters' character, Agatha Harkness, and the big reveal of the Nexus, because that's probably one of the most important concepts they introduce in addition to revealing Agatha Harkness' identity during the episode. But in the post-credit scene, Monica Rambeau makes her way down the street to Agatha Harkness' house, address number 2804. Remember, Vision and Scarlet Witch live at number 2800, so Agatha Harkness literally just lives right down the street from them. But I also believe the number 2804 is a reference to a comic book Easter egg and a clue to her true plan, what the Nexus is all about on the show. Why she's making Wanda create the Hex, so I'll talk about that in a second too, because it connects to a couple other things. She walks around the house and starts peeping into all the windows and then makes her way to the basement, seeing all these vines growing out, radiating with purple energy, implying that Agatha Harkness is in the middle of weaving some giant spell because her magic is purple, like Scarlet Witch's energy is red. They're kind of color-coding different characters on the show. Monica Rambeau's powers, the energy that she gives off is blue, kind of like Billy's power. They're doing that mostly so that you can tell who is using their powers at any given moment, so that it all looks a little bit different and more visually dynamic on screen. But as she looks into the basement, she gets caught by Evan Peters' character, who says Snooper's gonna snoop, and then you see her eyes glaze over with purple magic, implying that she's been mind-controlled just like Scarlet Witch, and then they cut to black. So obviously the big question is, what's going to happen to Monica Rambeau next? What exactly are her powers? How do they work? And what is it exactly that Agatha Harkness is doing with Wanda, and what does that have to do with the Nexus? So the most important thing, I think, in all this is the idea of the Nexus. So that also gets into the commercial from episode 7. The Nexus commercial is a reference to a couple really big concepts from the comics, but it's a key metaphorically and literally to everything that's happening on the show. So Scarlet Witch in the comics is what you would call a Nexus being, someone that exists in all realities. She's like a constant across the multiverse. So you all know about the multiverse. You have different versions of characters in different realities, but in some realities, some characters don't exist. Like there's a reality out there where there's no Quicksilver, but in every single reality, there is a Scarlet Witch. This will get you really excited for the Loki series and what's happening with Ant-Man 3, because one of the other big Nexus beings from the comics is Kang the Conqueror. All the Kang the Conqueror stuff isn't necessarily relevant to what's happening on WandaVision, so I'll reference him at the end of the video, because we'll get into that when we start talking about the Loki episodes. But the Nexus is also a place in the multiverse. It's sort of the Nexus, the focal point of all realities, like a gateway to all realities. The brand new intro for episode 7, the parody of the Office intro, was also sort of a riff on this idea of Wanda being a Nexus being. You see all the different versions of Wanda's name repeated in different kinds of letters, referencing that Wanda exists in all these different realities. Because Wanda is a Nexus being, she has this extra level of cosmic energy all flowing through her. She's sort of like a focal point of the multiverse, like a couple of these other big characters like Kang the Conqueror. It makes them way more powerful than normal characters. So on the show, on WandaVision, she has all this extra cosmic energy flowing through her. They kind of tease that in earlier episodes, talking about how her reality warping magic works, but it's the reason why she has reality warping powers, because she is a Nexus being. There's also a big Catherine Hahn, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse multiverse storytelling connection. So obviously, they're setting up a big multiverse plot because of the Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man 3, Spider-Verse, movie stuff in the MCU. But Catherine Hahn herself, Agatha Harkness, was in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. She played Dr. Octopus during that, who created a reactor to give the Kingpin access to the multiverse. So a new theory now, why is Agatha doing this? Why is she taking advantage of Scarlet Witch? Why is she trying to manipulate her? Maybe she also has some trauma in her history, or she lost someone, and that's why she wants access to the nexus of all realities so that she can search the multiverse for a version of reality where whoever she lost is still alive, or whatever she might have lost is still alive. If you don't know much about Agatha Harkness in the comics, she actually debuted during the Fantastic Four comics, but she's ancient. She was actually burned at the stake during the Salem witch trials. They haven't fully revealed how they're going to change that for the TV show, so I'm guessing that MCU Agatha Harkness is a little bit different from comic book Agatha Harkness because we don't have the Fantastic Four yet. There have been some Easter eggs so far, but the connection with her address, 2804, Marvel Knights had a story from 2004. It was issue 27, so it's not quite exact, but it was a Fantastic Four story titled The Resurrection of Nicholas Scratch. The sword agent that they sent into the sewer, the beekeeper, his name was Agent Franklin, which I believe was a subtle reference to Franklin Richards because obviously Agatha Harkness, big character on the show, Agatha Harkness was Franklin Richards' nanny in the comics. But you have to consider, why is Agatha Harkness doing this? Why does she care so much about the Nexus? She has to have a really strong emotional reason for why she's manipulating Wanda. They have to have something in common. She has to be some sort of dark twist on what's happening with Wanda on the show. And what is happening with her inside the Hex? Scarlet Witch is trying to fabricate a family for herself of all the people that she's lost. She lost Vision, so she wanted to bring him back inside the Hex and create this family with him. But the whole idea is that Scarlet Witch is dealing with this trauma, as Vision just learned during episode 7. Like, he started to chill out a little bit. Oh, she's been through a lot. She had to watch me die multiple times. Think about what that did to her emotionally. So Agatha Harkness just has to have something more in common with Wanda than just being another magical girl in town. And what would her reason be for wanting access to the Nexus? It has to be something stronger and more relatable than just trying to unleash a Marvel villain from the cosmos, like the Shumagorath or Nightmare or Mephisto. If that's the only reason why she wants access to the Nexus, it would be the most hammy reason ever. It's more likely that she also has some trauma in her history that she's dealing with in a really terrible way, and she's just taking advantage of Wanda to get what she wants, to try and fix or fill the hole inside her. And getting into the concept of the Hex is probably key to making that happen, gaining access to the Nexus, creating a Nexus, which might actually be happening inside this torture basement. That might be the focal point for where this Nexus is created. It just seems like there's so much magical energy radiating from this one point inside the Hex. And you have her very dark-looking book of magic radiating with energy, which is probably the key to how she's manipulating Wanda. So early theory, Agatha Harkness and Scarlet Witch have their full-blown wizard battle in the finale, and in messing with the multiverse and her selfish pursuits, they also inadvertently wind up unleashing greater cosmic villains onto the main MCU dimension. Like, we're all wondering how Agatha Harkness is connected to the villain of Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. Maybe she's serving Nightmare, Mephisto, Shumagorath, like I said earlier, or some other greater Marvel Fear Lord from another dimension, like Dormammu. But what if it's simpler than that? She's just using this magic book and Wanda's powers to gain more power so that she can get something that she wants, and in pursuit of that, they wreck the multiverse, wreck the Nexus. And that's the connection to Doctor Strange 2 and Benedict Cumberbatch. Even though it seems like there aren't any rules in any of these comic book movies because they break rules all the time, in the comics, there are rules that explain why beings like Dormammu in the Shumagorath, Nightmare, even Mephisto can't just waltz into Earth in the main Marvel universe and take over every single day, because each of them is that powerful. They make it to planet Earth and they're each a Thanos Infinity Gauntlet level threat. There are rules that they've created in the comics for how the universe works and explain why that doesn't happen every day. That was kind of what they got into during the first Doctor Strange movie, explaining what had to happen before Dormammu could absorb the main MCU dimension into his own dark dimension, or in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, what had to happen before Ego the Living Planet could absorb the entire universe. Doctor Strange is the person responsible for upholding those cosmic rules, but people break them all the time, sometimes on purpose, sometimes on accident, as will probably be the case with WandaVision. So now a lot of you are asking, what's going on with Evan Peters' character on the show? He looks an awful lot like Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men films. There are a lot of new theories now based on this big twist, him showing up and looking like this at Agatha Harkness's house, while Monica Rambeau is sort of glazed over with that purple energy. Did Agatha Harkness pull him from the Fox Marvel universe? Did she manipulate the multiverse to get him here to gaslight Wanda? A lot of people are also now wondering if he's a version of Nicholas Scratch, Agatha Harkness's son from the comics, who's also a minor Marvel villain himself, but on the show, aka Senior Scratchy, that she's always carrying around, that bunny. He also might be a version of her familiar, because she's a witch, witches have familiars, and he might just be able to take human form, and he looks like this. Even if he is a version of Nicholas Scratch, just to explain how he might look like Evan Peters' Quicksilver, she knows all about the multiverse, so she may just be using Evan Peters' Quicksilver as inspiration for the look of her version of Quicksilver. Him getting their backstory wrong would just fit with him being a completely different person who was just kind of winging it as they go along. But what's going to happen to Monica Rambeau now that she's been captured and they're going to throw her in that torture basement with Scarlet Witch? Well, they were very careful to show you how Monica Rambeau was able to defend herself and counter Wanda's magical blast of red energy earlier in the episode. Like Agatha Harkness's purple magical energy will react the same way. She won't be able to completely control Monica Rambeau, and it'll be a learning experience for her as well, Monica learning more about how her powers work. So when she was Spectrum, the way they explained her powers, she was able to transform herself into any form of energy within the electromagnetic spectrum. She's also able to analyze and duplicate new forms of energy as well. So they're just hyping up that she'll be able to soak a couple blasts from Agatha Harkness and then free herself from this mind control. But talking more about Nexus beings and the future of the MCU, people like Kang the Conqueror and the Loki series, with many different Lokis across the multiverse. Now it sort of makes sense why they're giving us this story now as sort of the introduction to Nexus beings, the Nexus of the multiverse, because during the Loki series, it's going to be Loki working for the Time Variance Authority, the Loki from Avengers Endgame who escaped with the Tesseract, going around acting like a time cop, taking down other versions of himself, other Lokis who are creating havoc across different timelines. They're sort of giving you the rules in WandaVision for how everything works so that they can play with those rules in future Marvel Phase 4 projects. But everyone post all your theories in the comments below. What do you think Agatha Harkness is trying to do with the Nexus and with Wanda as a Nexus? And who do you think that Evan Peters' character really is? Is he a version of her familiar, aka Senior Scratchy like Nicholas Scratch, or is he somebody else? My full episode 8 video will post next Friday, but I'll do a couple other WandaVision bonus videos before then. There's a brand new Falcon and Winter Soldier trailer. That'll be my next video that should post sometime tomorrow, so make sure you have alerts enabled so you don't miss that. I'll name a giveaway winner when I post that Falcon and Winter Soldier video, but click here for my full WandaVision episode 7 video, and click here for that other brand new Falcon and Winter Soldier trailer. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys tonight.